All right, it's Joe and Bob with Origin HiFi in beautiful Austin, Texas. Before we get going, is it Hegel or is it Hegel?
For this Texas boy, it's Hegel.
It's Hegel. That's what I've always heard, but I just want to be
I've had
appropriate.
clients call it Hegel.
I'm not going to
which
go that far.
I wouldn't
I'm
go
not
that
gonna
far.
go that far. That's going deep. So we have the H400 here. I heard this at Expona just recently, and it sounded amazing. I don't remember what it was feeding, but this is next level stuff for an integrated.
Yeah, I mean, one of my favorite integrateds at the price for sure. It's just has such a cornucopia of features for the price point and tons of power in a dual mono configuration.
Well, let's start with the power then. So what are we getting per channel?
It's white paper, 250 watts a channel at 8 ohms. I think a lot of people that have done power tests on it are seeing more like 300, over 300 a channel. And it is totally 2 ohm stable. So for your really hard to drive speakers or speakers that have that real big impedance swing, it will hang all day long. And that kind of goes to some of the Hegel sound. I think a lot of people describe it as like a very grippy amplifier.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by grippy?
Just holds onto the speaker real well. You know, a lot of times when a speaker does real big bass notes or something, the image can kind of cripple or crumble. This stays together like you don't even notice that the passages are happening. There's absolutely no image suck. It just stays as tight as can be. Everything stays exactly where it should be in the image before something like that happened.
Now, obviously, well, I say obviously, but I'm going to assume it's Class AB.
Class AB, yes, sir.
A lot of power.
Lot of power.
Will drive just about anything. How would you further describe, like, the sound signature of it? Warm, neutral?
It's fairly neutral. I would say it's a fairly neutral amp. It's got a really nice silky top end, a little bit of a recessed mid-range, and just a really tight big bottom. We all love tight big bottoms. And, you know, it kind of has that, like, very hi-fi clinical thing, but without the sacrifice of it being sterile.
Okay.
So it still keeps you engaged in the music, but everything is just really nice, picture perfect in the image.
Let's talk about the inputs. We'll flip it around and show everybody, but what are we dealing with? There's probably not a phono preamp because they'd like to sell you a separate one.
No phono preamp for this one. The model below this does have a built-in phono pre. It's kind of more your Swiss Army knife, but this guy has a set of balanced inputs. You can see we're on XLR input right now. Yep. A couple analog single-ended inputs, a coax, optical, USB, a couple BNC inputs for the digital section. So it does have a built-in DAC, which a lot of people kind of at this price point, you know, people are kind of thinking about, you know, hey, do I want to pay for a DAC? You know, it's
right.
Generally the thing that next year they're going to have some new technology or something's going to be better. This is a really spectacular DAC.
Do we know what they put in there?
We don't
proprietary?
know it. They do not say what they put in there. One of my favorite integrated DACs in an amplifier. I'm generally of the camp of like, you know, it's, at this price point, you're best kind of breaking out and looking for an alternative DAC. This, to me, is a game changer as far as that goes. It's smooth, it's accurate, it doesn't have that chi-fi kind of Delta Sigma glare that a lot of, you know, especially built-in DACs you generally get. You get that kind of thin digital sound. This just does not have it at all.
And I've noticed it doesn't have HDMI, but it does have 3 opticals, so theoretically this could be a 2-channel solution for television or home theater, or you could get several of these and make
100%. And they've made it real easy to do a TV learning for your TV remote to do learning on it. You can also, if you're, you know, obviously there's built-in kind of, it's essentially a built-in Wi-Fi or Ethernet endpoint. So it is Roon endpoint. Spotify Connect, Tidal Connect, any of the Connect apps, AirPlay, Google Cast, all the usual suspects. But if you wanted a dedicated streamer, you could go into one of those digital inputs. You can set any input on here as a home theater bypass. So if you're putting it in, great for these days when people are trying to create a music-centric system inside of a home theater. You add this guy, you could do, straight out from your preamp, your surround sound preamp or your AVR into one of the inputs, select that input and say home theater bypass, and it's full volume, you're ready to go. You can also do that on the digital input. So what we do here in the shop is we use like a Blue Sound, a cheaper Blue Sound Node Nano. Digital out, so we let the Hegel unpack all the digital information. You can set that on home theater bypass, so it's just like having the app when you have all the volume control in the app. So it's just like running a proprietary streaming amp.
What do we do about subwoofer?
There is a fixed output, which you would not probably run to your subwoofer, but there is also a variable single-ended output.
Okay.
It's a stereo, your normal stereo RCA output, so you could do stereo subs. You could run that and mono it out at a subwoofer.
Is there any room correction or bass management with this?
No room correction or bass management.
Okay.
The software kind of stops with streaming. So there's no real managing those outputs at all. The fixed and the variable, they just are what they are. You would obviously use the fixed for something like a tape recorder or something like that where you wouldn't want volume control interfering with the output.
What about heat? How does it do?
It does really great. Most modern Class A, B amps are pretty efficient. You'll get, I'd say this thing's probably 65, 70% efficient.
Okay. I can't heat a room in the wintertime.
Not you. You're not going to heat a room. It's not going to double as a space heater. And here in Texas, that's a good thing.
So I think, from what I heard here today and what I heard at Expona, it's just like, I say next level sound. I know Hegel's been around for a while, but I haven't heard anything as clean, as engaging. Of course, we had it on some pretty nice speakers here. I don't remember what I saw at Expona. What do we have them on here that we were
We had
just
them on the
listening to?
Focal Canta 3s.
So what's the price delta between?
Those are 15 a pair, so you're about half of what your speakers are, which is a good.
Is a good ratio.
That's a good place to start a system. Then you add a streamer, turntable. You're easily getting up to $10,000 in electronics when you're said and done, and that's generally a pretty good ratio for electronics to speakers.
Well, it sounded great. It had all that depth, all that detail, and that speed.
That's what Hegel does really good without it being clinical. We were having the conversation about a lot of high-end audiophile stuff, and it becomes kind of lab codey and clinical. And this has all that detail and everything without it feeling like you're under fluorescent lights. It still gives you that nice 2700K lighting, the warmth.
Final question. I don't want to get you in any trouble with Hegel, but what do you say to people that are like, man, another black box. I don't know if I want another black box. You got things with tubes, you got things with meters, you got things with LEDs. I know sound first, music first, right? But how do you counter that? Someone that's
it's hard because a lot of this is an aesthetic kind of hobby, But I will say a lot of times this is going to end up in a cabinet. It's not really going to matter what it sounds like.
I like the look. I love simplicity.
I do too. And I'd say like if you're aesthetically coming in for something that has more bells and whistles, this might not be your thing. But sit down and listen to it with your eyes closed and really give it a fair fight.
It'll sell itself. It'll
sell itself at that point. And at the end of the day, we're in this to listen to music and unpack music in its purity. So really, it looks like it works and it has a lot of power. Good for Hegel.
Yeah, right on. Well, thanks, man. That's great. I'll take 2.
You got it, Bob.